Hello everyone. My name is Vani Seth, team leader for Kuro Bulls from JUET Guna. For SIH 2022, our team opted for a problem statement from Ministry of External Affairs. PS number LC1076, which is titled as Email Spoofing Detection at Server Only. From the title, the question arises what email spoofing exactly is. So, email spoofing is a kind of phishing attack used to trick the user into thinking a message came entirely from a person they can trust. In spoofing attacks, the sender forges the header of an email. For example, a spoofed email may pretend to be from a well known shopping website asking the user for their sensitive information. Any normal user usually will not check for the header of the file, and even if they do, they won't be able to make out if the address is spoofed or not. The header of an email file looks like this. To address this problem, we decided on an approach including two methods to determine whether an email is spoofed or not. Our primary approach includes IP tracing. In IP tracing, we are going to check if the IP is from a valid domain or not. To explain this more properly, I would like to take an example. Here is a model that I trained for IP tracing. I'm taking an example for Facebook. This is the range of IP addresses that Facebook uses, and these are some active ones. Here is the model. Let's test it. Okay, so it's asking for an IP. Let's give a valid IP. Okay, so it results in a valid IP. Now let's check if we give another IP which is not in the range for Facebook. Okay, so it gives spoofed IP. Using this model, we can make out if an IP is valid or not. This model was only trained for IPs which are used for Facebook. In the server, we are going to use an API which is going to trace the IPs and tell us whether it is spoofed or not. IP tracing was our primary approach, but what makes our approach stand out is our second method, which are the flagging parameters. The received email will be checked using various features like we are going to use models which will blacklist words such as bank, pay, account, password, credit card number, etc. Inconsistency between replier's address and the sender's address, inconsistency between sender domain and message ID domain, checking if the email is in HTML format, the number of percentage character in the URL, inconsistency between the URL actually leads to the text the link appeared, the physiological features in the email, and so on. I would like to also give an example of the percentage character that is used in the URL. So, any URL that is a valid URL or not a spoofed one do not have any percentage signs in them. Let's take an example. So, if we search for anything, let's say, what is Wordle, let's say. So, and if you go to this link, you will see that there is no percentage sign in the URL provided here. But um, if a URL is, let's say spoofed, it will have percentage sign in them. So for that we made a model, and I'm going to show you that now. Okay, so here is the model. Let's run it and check. Okay, so it gives us the count of the percentage sign, and since there is a valid percentage sign here, it tells us that the email or the URL is spoofed. So this is one way of checking if uh, um, the email comes from spoofed URL or a valid URL. These were the two of many features which we used to check if the email is spoofed or not. We prepared various other models which flag the email as suspicious or not after checking it with IP and these flags. The server will automatically discard the email or let it pass based on the results from flagging parameters and IP tracing. Along with this, we also plan to keep the log of discarded emails to let companies like Google, Amazon, and various others to keep a note of what kind of spoof emails are being sent under their domain name. Now, the task was to stop the emails at the server, so we made a local proxy server to test whether our models are working fine or not. We are using an HMail server for this. We're gonna connect it, enter the password. Okay. Now we are gonna set up a domain. I'm gonna use my team name for this. So kurobulls.server and save. Okay, now we are gonna set up an account. So let's say we're gonna set up an account for user 1. So user 1 in the address, and we're gonna also add the password for the user 1. So password and save. Let's make another user also. So we're going to do the same for the user 2. So address will be user 2 and the password and save. So now we made two accounts for this domain, and we're going to run the diagnostics and see if our server is working fine or not. Let's start. Connected successfully. So yes, it's working perfectly fine. Okay, exit. So this was the prototype that we made. We further aim to improve more on it. This was our project on email spoofing made by me and my team. Thank you.